So whenever they are sitting on their log, doing their little pancake, hanging out directly underneath that bulb, but then they open their mouth. Well, they're not feeling threatened, they're not sick. What they're doing is they're Hey guys, Jenny from Tye-Dyed Iguana. I'm here today with Aladdin, and we're gonna tell you how to read your bearded dragon's body language and what it means. So let's get started. Bearded dragons can't talk, so we have to read their body language to know what they're thinking, how they're feeling. So let's kind of go down the list. So I guess to start with, bearded dragons are reptiles, obviously, but so they can't really quite feel like happy, sad, that kind of stuff, but they do have like other emotional states like being relaxed or being, feeling threatened or feeling hormonal. First, we'll start with, well, right now, relaxed. This Aladdin right here is completely relaxed. He's like super poseable, very loose body, eyes open, kind of looking around. His beard here is just, the nice white, well, he's white himself, but it's that flat color. It's not black or anything. Very loose. Can really kind of move him however I want. And so he's comfortable, he's relaxed. Yeah, so that's a happy dragon. So the next mind state of a bearded dragon would be, let's do threatened. So essentially when a bearded dragon feels threatened, the first thing they're gonna do is flatten out their body. It's called pancaking. So basically the whole body itself, like the ribs, will completely flatten out. He won't really do it because he's not threatened, but they'll become round. It's crazy cool. Whenever they're basking as well, but that's, to soak up heat, but situational, if like you come at your bearded dragon really fast or you startle it, it's gonna flatten itself out. It's probably gonna gape its mouth and kind of like stand up on its, front feet like this, so he looks a lot bigger. But obviously if it's a startled, the emotion will go away really quickly and it'll calm down. Now if it's feeling actually threatened and does not want to engage with you or whatever is startling it, the beard will start to turn very black. Keep on gaping the mouth. Depending on the bearded dragon's personality, they'll either, I don't know if you've watched Steve Irwin, but try and like nip at your nose. They'll charge, but for the most part, most of them just run away. So whenever that happens, obviously, just put your bearded dragon either back into its tank or take it out of the situation that is making him feel threatened. Put him into a dark corner, put him in like a little bin or something, let him calm down, somewhere warm and safe and secure for him to chill out. The next one we'll talk about is hormonal. So your bearded dragon will mostly show on males. Females don't necessarily show hormonal signs other than like maybe some digging. So if you see a female that's like eating a lot more than usual and then all of a sudden stops eating and then is digging like crazy, she's got eggs. No, she doesn't necessarily need to be with a male to have eggs. They can just pop out infertile eggs, but that's a sign that a female is hormonal. With a male, what they'll do is they'll trump around. They'll basically just like scout their territory. Like if you let them around the house, they'll be running around, and as they'll stop and they'll bob their head and just kind of like, become boss of the house. Now, if they ever come in contact with a female, their beard will go black and they go a little ham from there. Yeah, the whole chest, even the very tip of their tails, so like the last half of their tail can also turn a little black. I will preface this, just because the bearded dragon's beard is black doesn't necessarily mean that it's either angry or hormonal. It's essentially just a sign that they're in a heightened state of emotion or like awareness. So stress, sickness make their beard turn black. So anytime they're just like feeling extra. You can't just rely on the beard itself to know what the bearded dragon's feeling. You have to see the other signs that, that the body language is showing. And then we'll go over, let's see, how to tell if your bearded dragon is sick. Well, for one, they usually won't bask. They'll go sit in the corner or like under their hide, and they'll, that's the beard will sometimes, most likely, will turn black. They keep their eyes closed. They're very, lethargic. They don't want to eat. They refuse to drink. They refuse to be themselves, essentially. You'll be able to tell a bearded dragon is sick by just seeing that they're feeling under the weather. Another is like they'll gasp, sometimes, not always, but that's just another, sign, like, opening of the mouth. So if you ever worried that your dragon is sick, obviously go to your local vet ASAP, because by the time your bearded dragon actually starts to show signs of sickness, it's starting to get to that point where it's going to get very serious. So that's why you have to really pay attention. So don't let it go too long. Now, I talked about, opening of the mouth when sick, but they also do that when they are basking. So whenever they are sitting on their log, doing their little pancake, hanging out directly underneath that bulb, but then they open their mouth. Well, they're not feeling threatened. They're not sick. What they're doing is they're thermoregulating. So they're just, they can't sweat. So they open their mouth to kind of help cool themselves down. So the last one is brumation. It's kind of like hibernation. Basically what your bearded dragon is going to do is going to go in the corner. He's going to hang around. He's going to go underneath his hide and just lay there. Oh, he might be sick. No, his eyes are open. He's still aware. They just are sleeping extra. They don't eat as much. They might come out for, a couple days and then go back into brumation. They can lose a little weight, but they shouldn't necessarily become thin fast. Obviously, keep an eye on them if you're ever worried. Anytime that they're in that brumation state, they just look really sleepy. Pull them out once a week, give them a little, 10, 15 minute soak just to make sure they're staying hydrated, and then put them back and let them do their thing. So that being said, brumation obviously is completely normal, but just in case, if you ever do see that your dragon is starting to become lethargic, obviously could be becoming sick, but check your UVB. If your bearded dragon stops eating, isn't acting quite right, couldn't be that it's, they're sick or anything, but they're gonna start becoming sick because their UVB light has gone down enough to where it can't help your dragon metabolize. All right, and I guess I'll just kind of go over some of little signs here and there. So